Good evening, YouTube friends, or good morning, whichever time you are watching this. Good afternoon. It is time for another video, and it is approximately 1:30 in the morning. No, not quite. It is more like, let me check my clock. No, not so bad. Just one. Another late night. Welcome back. This is another What I Learned video. And again, just like last night, I'm going to try to be a little more quiet because I don't want to wake my roommates up. So I'm not going to be yelling like I usually am in the other videos. So this one is about anxiety. A feeling that I know everybody can relate to on some level or another. So what have I learned from being anxious? I want to qualify this by saying that I do not have a medically diagnosed anxiety disorder. And I know some people do, and I want to be as respectful of that as I can. And I'm not going to try to speak to that or make any kind of statements or generalizations about the people that have a diagnosed anxiety condition of some kind, okay? I do not have that. I'm talking about just general day-to-day anxiety that anyone might experience, regardless of whether or not they have a diagnosed anxiety issue. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. I know I just want to be careful as I can about that topic. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about personal experience and things that make me personally anxious. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. So with that out of the way, what have I learned from my personal anxieties? Well, on the front end, I just want to say this is not going to be as positive as you might think. Okay, I don't have some kind of positive platitude that you can take away or some kind of moral lesson that you can walk away encouraged with. The reality is that I've learned two main things about anxiety. One is that anxiety never listens to reason. Okay? Anxiety is not really rational when you think about it, at least generally speaking. So at the times where I knew I was anxious, I could feel I was walking into a situation that I knew was making me anxious, and I would be noticing the physical symptoms of it. I feel the heart rate going up a little bit. I feel a little bit of that twinge in my stomach, and I can feel the tiny microscopic beads of sweat starting to appear on my fingertips. That's almost like the first thing that I notice is like my fingertips. I know I'm anxious, and I just kind of like feel my fingertips, and they're like, yeah, sweat. I'm anxious. I don't know. That's just a weird thing about me. And no matter how much I try to talk myself down from it, seldom works. Maybe for like a minute, and then it doesn't matter, because once I step into the situation, I'm anxious again. So yeah, anxiety doesn't listen to reason. I think that's just because anxiety comes from a deeper part of ourselves. It comes from our core, a core part of ourselves that maybe our brain, I suppose, that's not concerned with reason. It's not concerned with the reason for the anxiety. It's just concerned about the thing causing the anxiety, and wanting to escape that, probably. I wish I knew the psychology behind it. I'm not a psychologist. I didn't study that. I would have liked to, but I have not. But that's just my personal experience with it. The other thing that I have come to understand about anxiety is that anxiety is a bully, and it will control you if you let it. Again, I'm just talking about general day-to-day anxiety that anyone can get. I'm not trying to make any statements about a severe, medically diagnosable anxiety condition. Okay. So for me personally, As an example, sometimes when I'm teaching at school, I am anxious about certain classes. And the thing you have to think about, some people might tell you that if you confront your fears, then they won't be as scary anymore. And eventually your fear will start to go away. And I think that is true to a certain degree about certain things. And I don't think it's true about anxiety, okay? Let me distinguish the difference. I can probably say that I would be afraid to go skydiving. I can safely say that I am afraid to go skydiving. Because I remember one time, I made the commitment to one of my best friends that I was going to go skydiving with him, and it didn't end up happening. A lot of stuff kind of happened. We the whole thing kind of fell through. It fell through, and it didn't end up working out that we could go skydiving together, but it is what it is. But at the time I had committed, and definitely can tell you I was scared to do that. And I definitely felt anxiety over that as well, but scared to do that. Didn't want to do it. But I think eventually, if I had gone skydiving enough, if I had gone skydiving 2 or 3 times a year for the next 10 years, I probably wouldn't be afraid to skydive anymore. In fact, I'd probably look forward to it every time. I can definitely think that the more I do that thing that scares me, the less afraid of it I will be. And that's also been true of classes. At first, I was nervous. I was kind of scared of teaching because I didn't know what the kids were going to think of me. The more I've done it, I've become completely comfortable, and I really don't even get nervous anymore. I'm differentiating that from being anxious because sometimes I have a certain lesson and I'm not sure about how my students will receive it, then I'll be anxious about it. If I'm teaching a lesson that I'm afraid will make them perceive me as weird or, I don't know, a loser or perhaps out of touch, something like that. If I'm afraid, if I'm concerned that my lesson or whatever my teaching method is going to incur from them some kind of negative opinion, then that makes me anxious. And this is all leading up to my second point, which is doing that, like pushing through that anxiety and teaching my lesson anyway, regardless of what they think of the lesson, really didn't like make the anxiety go away. It didn't cure the anxiety, okay? I know next time I teach a lesson that I'm not sure about, I'm probably going to be anxious about it. This is the way it is. I accept it. But it's made me step back and ask myself, why am I anxious about it? It's not that I'm concerned with trying to make the anxiety go away as much now. It's more so, what about this situation makes me anxious? What am I afraid of? And I think in doing so, you can learn something about yourself. And that's where the value is found, actually. I think there's a little bit of value to be found in this, this day-to-day anxiety that people experience sometimes, that you can learn about yourself and think, why am I actually anxious right now? What am I afraid is going to happen? Regardless of whether it's rational or not, what am I actually afraid is going to happen? In this case, my concern was that I didn't want to lose the favor of my students. I didn't want to be scrutinized by them. I wanted to maintain a good appearance in their eyes, I suppose, and at the end of the day, I want them to all like me, and I want them to think that I'm a good teacher, and I don't want them to think that I'm a weirdo. And so that was my reason. And some other teacher, some other person could be anxious about the same thing for totally different reasons, which will, by extension, mean a different thing about them. Maybe another teacher is not worried that their students won't like them. Maybe they could care less, but maybe they don't want to look stupid. Maybe their concern is looking stupid, whereas mine is just being liked by students. You see the difference? So what I've learned here from having anxiety over different little situations like this. It's not that the more you do it, the easier it gets. Maybe. I don't think so. I think that's for other things. I think that's for only certain other things, like, I don't know, riding a mountain bike or skydiving or talking to strangers. I don't know. But yeah, I think you can learn something about yourself, and it can help you understand yourself better. Learning what makes you anxious. So, I don't know. That's my experience. What makes you anxious and why? Leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Until then, I will see you guys tomorrow, as always. Thank you for watching.